Tabletopped will start after the following messages.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
Oh, hey there, how you doing?
Yar, do you be searching for a D&D play podcast?
Join us as we sail across the high seas.
It be a harrowing horror campaign inspired by piracy and Lovecraftian tales.
To Whom the Sea Belongs is the first campaign of the Kaleidosphere podcast.
Yes, that's kale, like the vegetable. IDO, sphere, wherever podcasts are found, yes.
My name is Cole.
My name's Kevin.
Very pleased to have been invited to do this.
Super fun. Sorry, I thought we were going to do that part too. Sorry, I thought it was like an answering machine thing. Okay. Yeah.
It's like an answering machine, but it's an ad on Tabletop Podcast.
Oh, okay.
One of the finest role-playing game podcasts of all time. As a trivia podcast who does a live trivia from Northern Ontario every single week, we sometimes ask questions about TTRPGs, such as Monster of the Week, Pathfinder, and D&D.
You do those, much to the absolute hatred of the crowd. For the most part, you do get beat up in the parking lot quite often.
If you're not the type of person who wants to beat me up in the parking lot, maybe check out Super Fun on Trivia and enjoy the rest of Tabletop Podcast.
Man, first I get pushed into a vat of beer and drowned. Now I'm just a ghost out here. This blows. What was that? Daniel, are you a ghost too?
No, it is I, High Rolla, the goddess of games.
Oh, cool. You sound just like the person who does our ads.
Shut up, mortal. I am here to offer you a return to life.
What?
Your friends have performed a resurrection spell and offered me a diamond. Would you like to return to your mortal life?
Yes! Wait, will Daniel get to come?
Actually, your friends brought him back first.
Oh, what the hell?
Will you return to life?
Yeah, beats hanging out here. I've flown through like 3 walls and a dog, so I pretty much got the full ghost experience.
On one condition.
Wait, what? Why is there a condition?
Your friends only had 1 diamond, so they used a ring pop for you.
Okay, we are going to have a talk when I get back. What's your condition?
You must play and review the TTRPG game 10 Candles.
What?
I said...
No, I heard you. Why?
'Cause I love that game.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Then return to life and tell your friends, thanks for the ring pop!
Welcome back to another episode of Tabletopped, everyone. Today we have the spooky, the scary. We are reviewing 10 Candles. It is a collaborative storytelling, amazing little one-shot module. We're going to talk about it in depth. But first, who is here with me today?
Me again, Daniel, or at Coronor.
Sean again. I'm always here for the spooky stuff. I love it.
And I'm the third of the Again brothers, Shade.
And I'm Nick, your host and stalwart companion. We all got together. We played 10 Candles so that you guys didn't have to, and so that we can talk about it in depth. But I think just right out of the gate, I'm going to say, you might not have to play this game, but you should play this game.
Yeah, it is a vibe and an experience, and I would definitely say if you can take the night with like a few of your most trusted friends to play this game with, do it.
Daniel, I'm one of your most trusted friends. That's a bad choice.
Don't tell me who to trust.
Let's get rid of, or just get out of the way some of the nitty gritty. This is a 97-page book that was first published in December 2015. It was written by Stephen Dewey. You can purchase it in PDF format as well as at least softcover for $10 to $28, depending on what format you get it in. And one of the cool things about this module is it requires no prep time.
Yeah, all you need are some candles, a bowl, a light source like a lighter, and an imagination.
And a fire extinguisher.
Yeah,
you will have lit candles on a table.
Just in case.
And you will be burning stuff as the night goes on. And we had a couple of near misses with stuff flying out of that bowl.
Well, it didn't fly out. It's like nobody sneezed on it and just caused the whole...
I don't think you saw what Jackie was doing at
that was after the game. To be fair.
Love you, honey.
The thing that you also need is a brick of D6s. You need 10 D6s. A couple more, actually, probably 15,
you need
depending on
10 plus enough
players.
Yeah. Correct.
And I will just say that it is very, very rules light in that when you read this book, it's very much about how to set a vibe, set a kind of like a atmosphere that you're going for. It has a lot of like tips and tricks. It has some modules inside of it about like how to run certain types of horror things. But the biggest thing about this game that I find just so fascinating and cool is that it's not a survival horror game. It is a tragic horror game because nobody survives.
Oh, yeah. So I guess to set up a couple of like things to be aware of before you sit down to play Ten Candles, you'll be playing it in a dark room. Your only light source will be candles that you are blowing out, so you'll end up in the pitch dark. And you will be dealing with character death. You're not supposed to survive this. So just like make sure people are in kind of that right headspace to go into something that is tragic, overwhelming, and just sort of depressive in a sense. But it's a fun game.
Yeah, no, that is one of the things we should point out. Is like we make it sound like, oh no, all the characters are gonna die. It's horrible, like, but it really opens up something in you, like this bond. And I don't know about you guys, even though I knew from the beginning that my character was going to die, I was like, I can get out of this.
Yeah, no,
this is going to be fine.
I honestly thought I was going to find a way to survive up until I didn't.
And you have to, like, in the book it does say like this game is about hope and perseverance, even though you're gonna fuck up and not do it in the end.
Yep.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Please.
That was weird. Harmonize it again. So, yeah, it's about hope in darkness and finding specifically that hope in the darkness. One of the things that is really interesting about it is, despite having very little prep time, you form such a quick attachment to the characters. I mean, I've played a lot of RPGs and put in a lot of hours at this point in my life, and I have a attachment to my characters pretty quickly, but sometimes it takes a little longer to get into them. I feel like you guys all, because I ran the game, I didn't get to play in that sense, but I feel like you guys all slipped into your characters immediately.
I was kind of shocked how quickly I fell into Marigold, a 30-year-old stepmother and trophy wife, whose idea only came to me moments after I found the accent that I wanted to use.
Yeah, it was strange. Exactly how quickly the character became a part of me. How much I realized as I was playing and developing this character, how much I really wanted this character to survive. Like, even though they'd apparently done some questionable things, it turns out during gameplay, it was a good character, and I liked exploring him. The darker things went.
The thing I think that forces you to get into your character quicker is that it does force you to reckon with your flaws very quickly, because you are literally given like a breaking point and a flaw that you can use to re-roll dice, but you have to kind of describe how your character is acting in a way that is part of this flaw that will let you re-roll those dice. And by embracing those attributes, it does force you to really connect with that character and really try to think in that way, because otherwise you can't use the resources available to you.
Yeah, which is a great thing to say about TTRPGs in general, is that they are a great sort of amateur therapy junior that you get to play with some of your quirks and flaws with and bring to a table in a safe environment.
So we've talked a lot about pros. I am curious, was there anything from a player perspective that you found was lacking for this?
The only thing that I kept kind of running up into as a wall at the beginning, and it's not even that I didn't like it, like it's not a con of the game, it was just like something I had to change my narrative style, I guess, is that whenever you get to a point where you say like, I open like a door and inside there is a safe that is locked, and it could even be that you're trying to give yourself bad things to have to deal with, but you're not actually allowed to say what's on the other side until you roll dice.
Yeah, that's actually, we have not talked about this. Narrative control is a central part of this game. So it's a game where no one wins. It's also a game where everyone, including the GM, as most TTRPGs should be, are advocates of the character. But the thing that we're really rolling for is to determine who's going to narrate this next moment.
Yeah.
And I agree. That is something that can kind of...
It just got to a point where I was like, because honestly, I was never trying to make things easier for my character.
No, you were not.
Or anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and I guess you can play that way, but it doesn't really make sense to. In fact, it's way more fun to keep putting obstacles in your own way, because then you have to figure out how to get over them. But you can't even put the obstacles in your way until you roll the dice as well. So it's like just a weird thing of, it's like a little bit of a mind shift of, you have to roll dice to try to succeed at something and be able to do something good for yourself. You have to change from that sort of kind of D&D or Monster of the Week sort of standpoint to a new way of thinking, which is every time there's a variable, I roll dice. And that is just like a little bit of getting used to. I wouldn't say it's a negative, just...
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that was like one of the trickier parts for me, is having sort of as a player the ability to control the world as well.
Yeah.
And it's a hard balance because you, again, like the temptation to be like, I find exactly what I need to get to this next scene. When you have that moment where, because like you can at certain points also determine what is true in the world and give yourself like, this is something that I will have in the next scene. So to play back and be like, not what's good, not what is going to help me, what's going to be the most interesting thing that will fit into what we're doing, and also just let the other players interact with in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I think the most difficult thing for me playing the game is to figure out when to stop talking. Because I wanted to continue to narrate, and at some point I was like, but I should probably stop narrating. And then I would look at Shade, who was running the game, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm still going. And you're like, and I'm like, okay. So I just keep going until there's a conflict.
Yep.
And it was a really hard balance of like, yeah, I'm just going to keep walking down this road, and what do I find? You just keep walking down the road. It's like, oh, so I walk, and then there's a light on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a town hall debate with no timers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I could have been a little more, well, you find this or that, but really, from a GM's perspective, as I said, this is a game you're really you're encouraged not to prepare for, and you're encouraged to, especially at the beginning, really sit back, provides the barest of bones of, this is what's happening, what are you going to do, and let them talk it out. Let them kind of put the sword over their own heads, and
because they will.
They will.
It's also impossible not to, because the more you say, the more you realize that you're running into obstacles that you've put there for yourself.
Yeah, there were several times when I realized that I had just said something that now I was going to have to roll to deal with. When we only had 3 or 4 dice left on the table. It's like, oh, why did I say that?
We didn't talk about that either.
Yeah, let's talk about the mechanics a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the mechanics are really fun. As I said, it's about narrative control, but there are 10 candles around the table. Anytime a candle blows out, that scene ends. And this is a game that's all about making scenes. It's very narrative in that sense. But you have 10, the players have a pool of 10 dice. The GM has no die to start with, and the players roll, and all they have to do is get 1 6 in that pool to succeed. in whatever they're doing. So what that means really is they get to control the narrative going forward in this moment. The GM does not.
For example, I go and I take a duffel bag of stuff, which actually did happen in this game. And you're in the back of a car maybe, and you're narrating it, and you're saying, okay, I opened the duffel bag, and inside, then the GM will probably be like, hey, before you say that, roll dice. Because if
we don't know what's in there.
Yeah, we don't know what's in there. And if you fail the dice roll, then the GM is able to step in and narrate how that ends the scene.
Yep. Because, if you do not get a 6 in that pool, this ends the scene, and there are a few things that happen with that. Number one, the candle is blown out. We are going to transition hard and fast into a new scene that makes logical sense. But number two, from that dice pool, the GM then takes one of the die and adds it to their own pool. So as the game continues and scenes continue to fade, the candles continue to fade, the player's dice pool gets much smaller and the GM's dice pool gets much larger. And if the GM wins with the number of 6s, the GM always controls the narrative.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we skipped over a part of the dice too. So you start out with your 10.
Yep.
You just need to roll 1 6 to maintain narrative control.
Yep.
But any ones that you get are removed from that pool for that first scene.
Yep.
Meaning that every time you make a decision or you're into a variable, it gets the odds of success run less and less.
For example, at the very beginning, you're rolling 10 dice. Let's say Daniel's doing something, he hits a conflict, he rolls all 10, 5 of them are 1s, but there's 1 6. You remove all 5 of the 1s, the dice with the 1s on them. The scene still continues, and Daniel has narrative control because he rolled a 6, but in all future conflicts in the scene, he is only rolling 5 dice.
Yep.
So it becomes harder to succeed.
Right, and once the scene ends, once you finally stop rolling 6s, you blow out the candle, you subtract a dice, but you get all of the dice except for the one you just subtracted back into your pool to start the new scene.
Yeah.
So every scene, you start with 10, you have 9, 8, until you eventually end up with, like, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, you
on your last
you have
candle.
1 dice.
Yes. Yeah.
Although, there are chances that you might succeed. For example, I have terrible luck with dice. Nick does not, and this wonderful bastard went, I think, 3 rolls, 3 conflicts, 6, 6, 6.
Yeah, at the very end with just 1 dice.
Yep, and I'm rolling no 6s with a pool of 9s.
And so,
Way to hang on by the skin of your teeth there, buddy.
making us all get that hope that we are not going.
but that was the thing that was so crazy about it was that, and again, this is something that it probably always happens because it just makes sense when these things happen. You justify it narratively. But I had abandoned everybody else. I had just run into the woods. I'd gone out to sea in a rowboat, essentially, to escape, tried to save my own skin. And I was out there, and I just kept rolling these 6s. So, like, I was able to keep perpetuating the narrative all alone as everyone else had died. And it just felt really right because I had given up a lot of narrative, like, time, I guess, in previous scenes because I had just booked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just so cool. It was very fun.
We had mentioned that we burn things. So for player character creation, you write down and we're not gonna. There's some trickery here. Let's not spoil anything here, but you write down a vice, a virtue. Something that is essentially your scene. Something that you hope. Your hope will be restored by, and something that will happen when you're at your brink.
Yeah.
Right. As well as just for everybody else, you write down a basic description of your character. Like, I'm 45, I'm a therapist, I have brown hair and I wear a pea coat, and, whatever.
Yeah.
I love that you took this time to re-describe your character.
Yeah,
it was 2T.
I literally couldn't think of anything, another example. I was like, well, I'll just pull the one I played yesterday. That's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. No, but it's like, I think that we will not spoil anything about the trickery, but the game does force you to not be able to prepare your character in advance, which I think is great. And also I think does help you fall into it quicker because you're not planning out a whole narrative arc from the get-go.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, I guess this and this is something. I guess this is my character. and let's roll.
It puts you on sort of a reactionary defensive stance from the first candle.
Right, which immediately heightens the tension and puts you into the game. Like your headspace is already right there. It's great.
Yeah, and I think that another thing that I really enjoyed was in the world of 10 Candles, this is always the same no matter what module you do, no matter what. 10 days ago, the world went dark. And then 5 days ago, things just are starting to not work anymore.
Appeared.
Yeah. And they are going to be your antagonists throughout the game. They are also going to be created sort of on the fly as well. And I think that this, again, is super smart by the person who created this. You, as the GM, and maybe Shade, you can talk a little bit on this too, you don't have a fully formed concept. It's not like, I'm going to run a big shark or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know what these things are, and you kind of get from your players a little bit of a description from them as well about what like they can do. And so you are also kind of on the fly creating this, and it forces you to use like the Jaws style of storytelling where you are kind of still unsure at the beginning what it is that we're dealing with. So I'm just not going to like make them jump out of, the closets and are everywhere right away. It's just sort of like, okay, this creepy thing is happening. No one really has a good idea of what's going on, even me, but that just makes the atmosphere so much scarier right away.
100%. The book goes into good detail about how this is a game where to build that tension, you should not see the monster, because just like with horror movies, there's always a letdown the more you see a monster. The predator gets less interesting as you go along in the series, unless we're talking about the new one. That's pretty cool.
That was
but yeah, that aside. But it becomes more of a cartoon the further it goes, right? But if it is foreign, alien, even if it is something familiar, like, oh, it is zombies, oh, it is a vampire, just kind of having that uncertainty ratchets the tension right up. But I will say, while the game, the book has a variety of modules.
It's basically like setting ideas.
Like a sort of a template.
Yeah, a little bit.
These little opening premises. And most of those are, the world is dark, 10 days have passed. Some of them actually are further along in that process and might actually inform a little bit more about the enemy. Some of them actually, there's one that the goal is to have the best spring break ever. And that's definitely not a dark world. That's a world
slasher.
where light, it's a slasher. So you can apply the system to a variety of things. And it does talk about how you as the GM can come in with some more concrete ideas. Like, you want it to be zombies. You want it to be werewolves. You can do that. But one of the joys of the game is you do not have to.
Yeah. One of the things I will say about this that got my brain just like lighting up was you can, if you've ever been in a conversation with your friends and they're like, oh, I would definitely not do that in that horror movie. I would be fine. You can just take that horror movie and then run them through it. Like, essentially just completely use the template of whatever you're interested in. But also I was thinking like, this is not IP specific either. I was thinking there's one of the setting like templates you can use is like, you are a military force trying to strike a blow at the enemy, sort of like this unknown thing that's been ruining the world. And that's basically 40K. Like, you can do a Warhammer where you're on a Space Hulk and you're trying to like clear it out or whatever. And like, all of this is not IP specific. You can literally jump and use it for anything that you're interested in.
I'm 100% bringing it into one of our D&D worlds sometimes. Yeah. So say goodbye to your Waterdeep characters.
I also want to say that one of the interesting aspects of it is, even after we played this whole game and went through all of the module and played it, I'm not entirely sure still what we were up against.
Yeah.
It remains a mystery, which like makes me want to go back and play that game again and again, because you don't have to discover anything. You're just surviving, and maybe you learn, maybe you don't.
Yeah, I guess, Shade, so you were the one running it, and I don't want you to like tell us what you think it is or whatever, but you didn't have any specifics given to you. Like, you maybe had something in your mind, but
so I specifically because I wanted to be as kind of like pure in this as possible, since this was our first go and I knew we were going to talk about it. I did not have anything in my mind. I just thought, okay, I really want to lean into the darkness. I really want to lean into, I was hoping you guys would be interested in one of the modules, which you were, just trying to get to a safe haven. That appealed to me. But beyond that, I didn't. But when, this is, I don't think, really a secret, but during the character creation, each player says, I have seen you. And they're referring to the player to their left, the player character to the left. They've seen that character do something at their lowest point at some point in the recent history.
For example, my character, I was past, I have seen you throw someone to the darkness to live another day.
And you did it.
Yeah, and I did that. But that's the sort of that's the sort of thing that's passed to you, again, informing the character creation.
So you didn't have a choice in that. That was written by our friend Greg, and who also played, and he passed that off. You, though, were to the left of, or I was to the left of you. You were to the right of me. And so you got to write, I have seen them. So you got to choose this one little detail about the monsters, and your detail was?
My detail was, I have seen them puppeting the living and the dead.
Yep. And it is up to, these are completely secret. No one knows about them until they come into play. And they come into play by, essentially, you have all of your stuff stacked. And at the top of the stack has to be one of the other three aspects, your virtue, your vice, or your moment of hope. And then at the bottom, face down, is this brink moment. Once you've worked through those, sacrificing them to re-roll a dice if it's a virtue or a vice, or playing out the scene if your moment of hope has come up, you burn those pieces of paper, succeed or lose, and then you can rely on your brink. So only you and I, because these are secret, knew this fact about the monsters.
Yeah, exactly. And it does give the players agency in the type of story that they're going to tell as well, because that person is able to not affect their fellow player characters in any real way. And I essentially was not able to have any insight into the people around me, but instead I had this moment in my head where my character had seen something happen, where he had seen whatever it was just sort of take over either a dead body or a living person. And that was knowledge that I had that I could bring into the game. And so when we were making our first decisions, people were like, yeah, let's look for other folks. And I was like, no.
And yeah, I was very pleased with that, because while I didn't have anything in mind that is more my speed, and it was nice to be able to kind of slowly unfurl that. And the first time you met an NPC, which GMs, you do not have to voice any NPCs here. Yeah. You can if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. You met an NPC, a little girl that Greg's character wanted to save, because that was his hope moment, was rescuing someone. And you did that. And I knew from the get-go that at some point the monsters were going to take over that little girl. He saved her for now.
Yeah.
Because you're secretly a bastard.
Yes, yeah, I am.
Yeah, but in the best possible way. And I think as the monster was revealed, you perfectly orchestrated that. We got to know that this was a hive mind. And when Daniel's character died, we realized that once Daniel's character rose up again and started doing the same things we'd seen the other monsters do, we realized that it could also puppet the dead and not just the living.
Yeah, and the thing that I really loved about it as well was, like Shade said, we actually never saw or knew what the monster was. Like you said, we knew there was a hive mind in that all these people started doing the same thing. They all started singing this song and their eyes would turn green. But we didn't really know what was going on there. And even at the end, when I was the only surviving character and I found this NPC that sort of was acting in a way that could have been sort of like a mastermind, it was kind of a head fake. And at the end, it was like, oh, it's just this world's time. It's like, this is not understandable. It wasn't anything that we could stop. It was just going to happen. And then that ending moment of that realization was such a cool, like, completing moment of the narrative too, because we had all been struggling so hard to just like get away from this thing, but it turns out it wasn't a thing you could really get away from. And it was like it was a really cool narratively. That was very, very cool.
One of the things that I was kind of stressed about going in, because I've been singing the praise of not having to prepare things, but I love preparing things. Like, it sets my mind at ease. But I am also fine with, not. Anyway, I was kind of stressed about mood. And I think I was kind of like curmudgeon at the start of like, guys, we can't have chips and we can't have drinks or anything because this is supposed to be dark and serious. Which, we ended up kind of forgoing that stuff, but the mood was still captured. So I guess, you should come into this game, again, prepared to have very grim things happen and prepared to kind of take it a little more seriously than you might some of your other RPGs. Mm-hmm. But don't be afraid of the lighthearted moments because
they're so good and they're so fun and they really make it.
It's like when you have, say you're watching that scary movie, but it's got that one good, funny line. You have to relieve that tension.
Yeah.
Just so you can go back to it. Otherwise, it's just oppressive. But like Daniel's character, Marigold, just had like the best...
Real quick, can we hear
a
little Marigold?
No, Marigold? Marigold didn't join us today?
I have no idea how to
She died that day.
She died that day.
You have to understand that I had a work function. There was alcohol involved beforehand and during. I wouldn't do her justice to bring her half back now.
I'm just going to say Lumpy Space Princess.
Yeah, Lumpy Space Princess / Stepford Mom.
Yeah. But the Marigold provided much needed moments of levity in this very dark and intense, grim game. And I just, I want to say I really appreciated Marigold.
I was really trying to channel, and we might edit this later if I get the name wrong. Jennifer Coolidge, I think is her name.
Coolidge, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I had her in mind.
And you got close.
I get that. Yeah, that's good. That is good.
But like the thing about this game too that I think is kind of a weird human lizard brain thing is that when you're doing it, even if you're like walking in not really taking it seriously, the ritual of it, having no lights, having these candles going, and when things are, at the end of a scene, when the GM is narrating how things are getting worse, and then blows out a candle, is like just pretty. It like strikes something in you, and also like I don't know about the rest of you, but when things were happening, I found myself just staring into the flames of a candle and just like listening to what was happening.
Yeah,
and it puts you into a space.
Yeah, true.
I think I focused on the bowl of ashes. And everything that we had lost as we kept going.
Yeah, because you do lose those pieces of yourself as you find yourself giving up your vice and giving up your virtue, your honor, and giving up your hope.
Yeah. God.
Yeah.
Like there was so the hope die mechanic is very, very cool too.
Yeah.
Because when you're writing the I will find hope, for example, mine was, I will find hope in a moment of rest under a maple tree. That means that when that is active on the top of my pile, then everyone in the group can start trying to steer the narration to get me and my character close to a maple tree in a situation where we could maybe take a rest. When that happens, you then can roll like how this is like striking a moment in you to like find that and ignite that hope within your character. If you succeed, just like in the normal way, you get a dice that you can never lose. Well, almost can never lose.
It's much harder.
Yeah, it's much harder to lose, and you also succeed on 5 and 6s, which is just hugely valuable.
Yep.
And the thing was that like we got me under that tree, and like I had this great moment of like my guy was not doing well mentally, and he was leaning against a tree, looking up, thinking of home and how all of these like the trees of his home in Canada. And I failed the roll, and something happened that he never had that moment of true rest, and my hope just burned away. And that like completely changed how I played that character after that. He wasn't like going to be able to help others anymore. He was truly deeply panicked. There was no hope, he felt, and he was just operating on base instinct after that. And it like completely changed how I played it. It was fun.
For sure.
Yeah, I think in that same scene was also when I lost my hope.
Yeah.
Because my hope was I will find hope when I reunite with my stepdaughter.
Yeah.
And I also felt that role. And so when I found my stepdaughter, she was already part of the other.
Yeah, the collective.
So it was just like, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
And I think we were getting in a moment where we were getting surrounded, which is also what took away your rest put us unsurrounded. Mine made Brienne a potential ally, a monster.
Yeah.
And readers beware, I was already with a broken leg, having wrecked a car, to just find the last member of my family when my last of my hope was burnt in a bowl.
Yeah.
I didn't survive this scene.
Yeah.
There was also the same scene where the kid Juliet, that Greg's character had rescued, also turned. So we were like losing hope left and right.
And that's another thing about this game is that it's actually hard to lose the first few candles just because you have so many dice that you're rolling. It will happen eventually, but like after you get like 3 or 4 extinguished, your dice rolls are just going to go bad really quick.
Yeah.
And like we extinguished like 5 candles in 30 minutes or something.
Oh,
it was just like one after the other.
We started a scene and got like 2 rolls in. It was like, okay, scene's over.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think our first scene was maybe like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the next one was about the same, a little bit shorter. And then we had 5 scenes that were less than like 3 minutes just in a row.
So this is one thing I want to touch on before we sort of close out, talk about what we think about the game in general, give our ratings, whether we think that people should play it, all that kind of stuff. You probably have a pretty good idea of what we're going to say in that portion. One thing I would warn people is that this is a really grim game, and like it's important, I think, to talk beforehand about what you want to be able to do narratively within it, because we had 2 characters take their own lives. We had, some really sad things happen with like children within the game and everything like that. It's just, and none of it felt out of place. Like it was that horror movie setting where like this bad things are happening. It's like the end of the R.L. Stine book where, oh no, it's not good. Actually, everything's still bad. But just as a warning to folks who are sensitive to those types of things, that I still recommend you play it, because it really does bring out this really beautiful storytelling and hope and really good character arcs. But I would just have a conversation with your group about, hey guys, let's none of us take our own lives. Let's not do this. No torture or whatever it is that's really gets your goat, and say, we're just not going to do that. And I think that will get you around the pitfalls of the game. But I think that would be the only thing that I thought was a little difficult about this system.
Yeah, I would say the mechanics are strong. The book is a great read, but it's definitely going to be a good game or a bad game based on who you decide to play it with.
That's very true.
So just think about like the group you want to take into that game with you, and just kind of make sure that you're all kind of on the same level narratively.
Yeah, just make sure people are interested in that story that you're about to tell, because if you came in with people who are like have no interest in this genre, they aren't people who love telling stories no matter what it is or whatever, and they're more of like a mechanics based like war gamer or something,
this is not their game.
This is not their game. They're not going to have fun.
This is a narrative heavy game. It's a story collaboration game above anything else. You roll dice just to get some results and see where the story plays out, but it is all narrative for the most part, and atmosphere, and just great.
I mean, I think those are really great points, and we had a sort of soft discussion about that, but we didn't go over specifics, which that was on me.
No, but like the thing is, I didn't, because I had heard of this game before. I had read the full book and everything, so there were no surprises for me. I didn't think about that either.
Yeah.
At the end, I was like, whew.
I get that. I didn't think of it. I did. There is. See, I should have thought of that because I'm sure you read this. There's one of the modules where you play all dogs, and remind you, this is a game where no one lives to the end.
Yeah,
and somehow killing dogs is worse. Than
Yeah, well, it's not for the faint of heart in some aspects for sure. So we have a conversation.
Yeah, but I will say the things that I remember are Marigold desperately searching for her stepchild and making us all laugh with this like silly voice and like finding a bright pink convertible and like Sean, your character trying to find his wife and meeting his friend and just like finding like a fist's full like a fist's worth of bacon in this diner, and like these are kind of silly weird moments that like stick with you and are these like little bright lights in this otherwise very bleak
But
story.
it's a trick because it humanizes them.
That's right. So
yeah, let's talk about the end as we approach here. We're on our final candle. What do you guys think? Would you recommend? In the past, we've done sort of like a buy, borrow, pass sort of on different modules and things. This is a system review, so let's just talk about like, do you suggest that people play it? Daniel, you had already said a little bit like these are the type of people who might want to play this. Like, what do you guys think about this system in general?
I definitely say that it's got good vibes if you are careful with who you play it with. So I wouldn't say just break it out at any party, but definitely like it's a good game to plan an event around.
Yes,
definitely do that if you know who you want to play with and you've got like a good sort of group dynamic. Definitely try it out.
Yeah.
Sean, how about you?
I would say, you don't bring this to a random game night where you're like, we're playing apples to apples, and now we're playing 10 Candles. Let's not do that. But like, plan the evening to play 10 Candles.
Yeah.
With a certain set of people who really are into this idea, and then just go with it. It takes 2 to 3 hours, and it's just the most strange. It's the most fun you can have while being very sad.
Yeah. Very true. What about you, Shade?
I know we're not doing a buy, borrow, but I would say buy. It's well worth it. And I will just echo everything they've said. But if you're going to run it, go ahead and, don't be afraid to modify things. This is a game, because it is narrative, that you can make changes for. I've already thought about, like I joked earlier, get ready to say goodbye to your Waterdeep characters. I'm not going to do that. But I am going to absolutely put this in one of our D&D settings, and we're just going to do this with characters that I will say, this is maybe more dangerous than usual if you want to create alternates, but it's in the setting, or something to the effect of, I have made it so that people can survive more easily. It's a nice palate cleanser of a game if you've been really dogged down by mechanics and dice mods.
Yeah, for me, I agree. I think this is just a book that I would want in my collection anyway, because whoa, what a fun book to read, like as a manual. It's really well written. It's very narratively written, so it's just fun to do. And I also think that as somebody who has been an actor, a filmmaker, all that kind of stuff, it is actually a thing that you could just generate a script from. Like, at the end, I was like, we could shoot this movie. Like,
I would totally watch that movie.
Yeah, it was not bad.
Can I say as an aside, because I agree the book is really great to read. One thing that made me laugh pretty heartily, though, and I don't think it was intended to be a joke, they have... I might be wrong. They have the kind of like, here's how it plays out kind of thing, and they have these players creating their characters, and there's this one character who has the traits of charismatic, and I forget what their virtue was, but their virtue was charismatic, and I forget what their vice was, and they're like, and I think it would be great if I played a cop, because they're charismatic and helpful, and their name is Karen in the text. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, and it does have like, it's just very well written. Like Shade said, there's some like kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff in there. Yeah. And there's also one last thing I want to say about this. For a Halloween Spooktober event that you might be running for your group, oh my God. I've already been advocating for this for like 2 years in our group and everything. I'm glad we finally got to do it. But man, this is good. It will only take one night. Everyone will be scared and it will be a horror movie and everyone will have a great time. This is such a good system to use for that sort of like one-off that you want to place in for a Halloween party or whatever that you're running with your D&D group or whatever group you are running with right now. I can't suggest it highly enough.
All right.
And that's, I guess, the last candle's being blown out. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say there are a couple of mechanics that or things that happen in the game that I did really appreciate at the beginning. There is the recording.
Yeah.
So you need something to record with.
Yeah.
That's vital because it plays out after you've forgotten you've done that thing, and it's such a perfect moment. When you do it at the beginning of the game, it really helps you get into character.
Yep.
And then when it comes into play later, it's just the perfect thing when that happens.
Yeah,
so.
And you don't even need like a recording device that can record a whole session. It's literally like just voice memos on whatever kind of smartphone you have is going to be enough for you there.
I literally just used my camera on my phone and did a video recording, but didn't have the video. Like I had the camera section blocked. So, I don't know if we have anything else to say, but if not, then I'll just say these things are true. The world is dark, and we are alive.
We're alive. Happy October, everyone. We're doing a bunch of stuff on Tabletop this month. Every Thursday, I am going to be dropping an Under the Bed monster review just to get us into the mood. And also, later on this month, the Halloween episode, we are going to be talking with a special guest. I won't reveal it now, but maybe in a future episode. So look forward to that. It is going to be monstrous. All right, we'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, another episode of Tabletopped come and gone. If you like the show, you can support us by liking the podcast and giving us a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes. You can also leave a review, always helps. You can also come to our website at tabletopppod.com or go to our Patreon if you want to financially support the show at patreon.com/tabletopped. If you're interested in buying some ad space with Tabletop, send us an email. You can either go to our website and hit the contact form there, or send us an email at tabletopppodcast@gmail.com. Enjoy, everyone, and we will see you next Monday for another episode of Tabletop.